Welcome to the Extra Point, where we never leave a topic uncovered. I am your host for this evening, Robert Vinatoli, along with my co-host
Joseph Baker.
and we have a great show for you tonight. And Joseph, tonight we're going to get to our first topic, the regional championship matchup between the Green Valley Gators and the Liberty Patriots. Who needs to have a big game in order for the team to be packing their bags and heading up to a Northern showdown?
I'm going to have to take Tyler Newman on this senior quarterback from Liberty. He threw for 3,400 yards, 37 touchdowns, and only 9 picks to lead a very talented Liberty offense. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does against this poised Green Valley defense. He's definitely taken advantage of everybody that they played against in Southern Nevada. They've beaten everybody in conference, so it's going to be interesting to see how the game turns out. But I believe Tyler Newman does need to have the biggest game of them all. The quarterback is the most important position of the game, so we'll see how he takes control of the game.
A special note on that, it's going to be interesting to see how he does against the Green Valley secondary, headlined by Albert Lake, who in the past 2 weeks has had 3 interceptions, including a 70-yard touchdown return against Drew Doxtator in the opening round. And also, they got standouts Larry Norman, who has 80 tackles on the season, and they finally got 2 key contributors, Gio Hernandez and Kyler Chavez. Thank you, Christian Lopez, for the inside information. Finally healthy and in that secondary. And Chavez isn't no slouch either. He had 2 interceptions against Trevor Swenson last week, so let's see what Newman can really do. But that's not even my pick for this matchup. I'm going to go with offensive lineman Tyrell Crosby. And you talk about Liberty as a whole. Offensively, they're so sound with Calvin Tubbs at the running game. They're emerging sophomore. You got Newman coming up, but the defense is just potent. You got Larry Flumer, you got Jarvis Polo, you got Noah Jefferson, all 3 key standouts on the defensive line. If Tyrell Crosby can keep the pocket clean for Christian Lopez, I think the Gators are packing their bags to Northern Nevada.
Yeah, but that's going to be tough for him. Crosby is one of the best recruits in Southern Nevada as it is, and definitely by far the best offensive line recruit outside of Gates from Bishop. He's even going to Oregon, which is a very good school to go to. But he's only blocking one person at a time. He can't contribute for the rest of the line. So you named 3 great defensive linemen for Liberty. How is he going to be able to hold up on his side while the rest of his linemen, have to deal with the other 2 studs?
I don't disagree with you. This isn't who we think is going to win. This is who needs to have the most important game. And I've seen Tyrell Crosby. That is a man amongst boys. Shout out to Tyrell. He's double-teamed players before. But let's go to a little prediction time. Who do you got in this matchup?
Oh, I'm going to have to take Liberty over Green Valley. I picked them 35-21, I believe so. They're overall a better team, in my opinion, through offense, through defense, and special teams. They just seem to click on all 3 sides of the ball. So, leadership, seniority, that definitely plays a big pivotal role in it, especially with the quarterback being a senior compared to junior Christian Lopez. Not taking anything away from Lopez, but it's just the poise and the composure, and the higher you get up in stuff like this, the harder it becomes on younger kids like that. He still has another year left to get there, so we'll see how it turns out for him.
You talk about senior leadership. I think I just made my point with Tyrell Crosby, but I'm going to have to spurn the Gators in this one. I'm going to go with Liberty beating the Gators 38-35, but like I mentioned, if Tyrell Crosby can keep the pocket clean for the Gators throughout the night, don't be surprised if you see the Gators packing their bags for a Northern showdown.
Definitely. They're a tough team, but I just believe Liberty just triumphs them in this game. They're just too strong for them.
Look at us agree on something. And next topic we're going to get to is the Arbor View against the Bishop Gorman matchup. And the question I got for you, Joe, is can this even be considered a game?
I don't know if I could take it seriously for them, honestly. We've just watched Bishop Gorman walk through everybody in Nevada. The only people that really compete with Bishop are people from Arizona or California. Randall Cunningham's just a stud. You look at him, he reminds you of his dad. Just a small part. He's not completely there, but the kid's still developing, and he can run the ball and he can throw the ball. They have the number 1 tight end in the nation as a junior, and Alize Jones. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. They're 25th in the nation as well. So with that being said, you look at that team through a whole, and they're just always just stacked top to bottom. Anybody can come in and really play anywhere.
Hey, I'm not going to dispute anything you just said. I got the Gales winning 49-21, but let's take the Arbor View side for a second. They do got a running game behind Anthony Smith and Herman Gray. Jacob Speaks and Salah Boyce come in and spell those 2 when they need a change of pace backs. But let's look at the defense again. They got a nice linebacker, Lonnie Sharp. He really is a smart player. He plays the field well. I think he'll be able to contain Russell Booz on the outside and Daniel Stewart as he runs through the middle. And in the secondary, you mentioned Randall Cunningham coming into his own, but Arborview has a really nice defensive back in Maurice Harvey. He's already got 4 interceptions on the season. And let's not act like Randall's throwing it with the best of them in the Valley. I mean, I still don't put him in that category just yet. But like I said, I mean, I don't know if I can take this one seriously. I don't think, it's as big of a deal as everybody's making it out to be. I don't think they're going to get routed like the 56-0 route of Spring Valley. But, I mean, if you can keep it in 21 points against Gorman, I consider that a game.
That's definitely a realistic view, but again, I mean, Gorman's just top to bottom stacked with talent, and that's just too much for Arborview to handle. I mean, even their backups can come in and beat this team from Arborview, I believe. They're solid all up and down from backups to third strings even. And during the playoffs, they like to bring in their JV and freshman teams too. So, I mean, they have a lot of talent from all sides of the ball, all sizes. I mean, it's really tough to stop a Bishop Gorman team that just plays like this, especially on a roll as they've been of late.
Yeah, I mean, I gotcha. Next topic we're going to get to is a rematch, and this one is interesting between the Palo Verde Panthers and the Centennial Bulldogs. These two played during Week 5, and the Bulldogs pulled it out in a windy one. I'm very sorry about that. The Panthers, see, I mean, I want to go with Lance Worthington, such a dynamic back, and they almost pulled it out. But the Panthers pulled it out 22-13 in a windy battle. And who do you got in this one? I mean, you got Palo Verde and you got Centennial. I'm going to go first on this, and then we'll get your take. The key for me is Lance Worthington a stud? I mean, we had him as our number one back, courtesy of Jonathan Thompson from MS Scout, as our number one back. And he's kind of, gone through the motions. He had a goal of 2,000 yards at the beginning of the season. I believe he's just almost eclipsing the 900-yard mark. So, I mean, let's see if he can really start to, break out. I will say, if he breaks out, though, with Carl Thompson playing efficient quarterback duties, and you got Sam Lawagi in the secondary, already 6 interceptions for this kid, along with 75 tackles, the Bulldogs pose a threat to the Panthers. I'm going to have to go Palo Verde, though.
They definitely, I mean, yes, Centennial definitely poses a threat to Palo Verde, but Palo Verde is a very efficient team. They don't throw the ball as much as we'd like to see, but their quarterback in Parker Ross throw for 1,008 yards, 16 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions on the season. You couldn't ask for more efficiency than at any other position but quarterback, turning the ball over 2 times through the air. That being said, I mean, also Jaron Campbell at running back, 851 yards, and you're talking about Lance Worthington, who's supposed to be one of the top running backs in the league, and this guy's right behind him in yards. So, not to mention their defense with one of the best defensive lines in the state, behind Griffin Kemp, Josh Hamilton, and Michael Hughes. They definitely they're definitely going to cause trouble in that backfield against Centennial. I mean, you look at them as they play, and they're just monsters on that field. We watched them last week when they played, and they're defensively sound. I mean, as much as their offense might not work for them sometimes, they do run a lot. So, I mean, that does sometimes slow the game down, but their defensive line really can control the game here and control the run that Centennial hopes to get down. So,
I mean, like I said, while I picked the Palo Verde Panthers, I'm going to go with the upset alert. All right, I know this is at home for Palo Verde, but if they don't bring their A game like they took the Centennial Bulldogs lightly their first matchup, I don't know, man. Lance Worthington, he excels in big game situations. I mean, he's going to be ready. Number 6, he likes to mimic himself with the little DeAnthony Thomas of Oregon. I really do think he's that fast. Let's just see if he can get out into space, and that's the key. If you can get Lance Worthington out in space and let him run like they had an 80-yard screen pass the last matchup they played, I don't know, man. Maybe there's an upset alert.
Maybe, but I mean, you also have to look at the tight end in Jake Ortell. I mean, he's had half of Parker Ross's throwing yards. He's got 558 yards receiving and only 12 touchdowns. I mean, that's huge for a team that doesn't throw much. So, I mean, look at them also to rely on him to get the ball downfield when they need to convert on a 3rd and 10 or however long the play might be. I mean, they have a lot of talent on that team, and I just think they might be too much for Centennial down the stretch when it counts.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying, and we're going to get to our next topic. We're going to talk a little D1 state football action. We got Faith Lutheran against Churchill County, and Joe, who do you got hosting that state championship trophy come this Saturday?
You know what? I got Faith Lutheran. We were at the game last week, man, against Lowry, and wow, what a game that turned out to be. I mean, Jacob DeVille was definitely starting to show that he's got the poise to play quarterback in this league, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play out. I mean, they've got a solid defense. They've got a solid offense. They can rely on their 2 running backs in Keenan Smith with 954 yards in the nose for the end zone, scoring 18 18 times on the ground. You also got Fabian Lagudi, who had 740 yards and 13 touchdowns. So, I mean, they know how to control the game. They're very well coached. We've seen that. I haven't really honestly heard much about this Churchill team, but I mean, you talk about their quarterback in Morgan Dickerson, and you say he's a stud. So I mean, it's gonna be a tough matchup for him. But I believe they can pull it out if they play efficient ball.
Hey, I mean, you already know where I'm going. I picked them last week against Moapa Valley, one of only few commentators in the Valley to call that upset. And, I mean, don't call it an upset. The Green Wave are for real behind Morgan Dickerson, as you just mentioned. That kid is just really coming into his zone. He's got 2,244 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He is just a stud, a man amongst boys at the D1A level. You also got Trent Turner, 1,386 yards and 19 touchdowns. I mean, they run a balanced offensive attack. You got a wide receiver who's a sophomore, and Carmen Merzen, 960 yards and 15 touchdowns. I mean, all around the board, this offense is stacked. Then you got Dakota Schelling on the defensive end. I mean, you talk about a linebacker, 99 tackles, 7 sacks, and 2 interceptions. He's got a nose for the ball. And I don't know, man. I want to go with Hayden Solis. He told me back in August that this was a state championship team, but I'm going Churchill, man. I'm letting that Green Wave right out.
I'm going to have to take Hayden Solis on his word, man. He seemed very confident in this Faith Lutheran team that didn't start off so well as they thought they would in the beginning of the season. But, I mean, as they kept going week in and week out, they really showed that they were serious about state. So, I mean, with that being said, also Ben Flandemeyer with 139 tackles and 4 sacks. The guy's got a nose for the ball. So it's going to be tough to run on this Faith Lutheran defense. We already saw it. I mean, yes, the quarterback from Lowry did have some success, but they managed to stop the running backs when they were trying to run the ball. So, again, it comes down to a good defensive battle, and I believe Faith Lutheran's defense will hold up and the offense will be efficient enough as they try to control the game.
Hey, I couldn't agree more. I'm just saying, I'm letting that Greenway ride. Go Churchill County. Let's do this. We're going to get to another topic, and this one kind of hits home with you. Who makes a better MVP argument? We got our Silver State Preps postseason awards coming out very soon, and we got 2 very good candidates here. We'll talk about our other candidates in upcoming episodes, but you got the 2 front runners. You got Legacy's Casey Hughes, a dynamic playmaker on both sides of the ball, and then you got perhaps the best playmaker in the Valley in basics, Trey Johnson, as a basic homer. Are you going with Hughes, or are you going to stick with Johnson?
I'm going to stick with Johnson on this one, man. I mean, not only did he have over 2,800 yards of total offense, but the guy played both 3 sides of the ball. He played special teams, he played defense, and he was the quarterback on offense. I mean, it matters most who has the ball in their hands. That's who it really comes down to. And if they didn't put the ball in Antre's hands, basically easily would have lost every single game this season. So he really made a turnaround for that team and made sure that they were on track to reach the playoffs as a number 2 seed for their region. So it is interesting. It's a tough pick. I mean, you look at Hughes and he added over 1,000 yards, but Johnson, I mean, is the overall playmaker, and he really controlled the ball when it counted most for his team.
Well, I agree with you that I think the Basic Wolves, and I told you this again, that they'd go defeated. I mean, they'd go 0-9, and I mean, you do look at DeSoul or El Dorado in the playoffs if Trey Johnson isn't on this team. I mean,
that's a scary thought, man.
He definitely is one of the best playmakers, but I'm gonna have to go with Hughes. I mean, talk about this. You mentioned his yardage. I mean, 1,031 yards on the ground, 15 touchdowns, 68 tackles, and 1 interception. He also does it on special teams. I mean, there's a reason why this kid is being recruited by Oregon State. I mean, he is just a dynamic playmaker. And Legacy, I mean, who were Legacy last year? I mean, they were 4-5. You know, I mean, they've always been known for their athletes, but I mean, he put them over the hump, and I know they just got chumped by Arbor View in the previous week. He didn't have the greatest of games, but throughout the season, this is a body of work, not just one single game. I'm going with Casey Hughes. He's got my vote.
I can agree with you on Casey Hughes. I mean, the kid was a tough fighter all the way through with Legacy, and again, you go back to last season, how they were only 4-5, and he really led the team to become a good team on the offensive side of the ball. But at the same time, you point out that he had struggles on offense against really good defenses. You look at Antre, and the kid just, no matter who his opponent was, I mean, he did not play an Arbor View type defense. No, but he might not have had the best passing game, but I mean, the kid found holes and found ways to find the end zone. I mean, the kid has a nose to score, and he has a nose to make plays with his feet, whether it's, scrambling away from a defender or taking off 30 yards down the field for a big play. The kid has it all in him. I mean, it really helps when you can throw the ball as well. So
I mean, you can't go wrong with either of these two picks. We're going to have to get the whole panel together and decide who's going to win this matchup. But I know we got this last topic for us, and I know this one kind of hits home with you. We're going to argue about this. But at 2-2, should UNLV basketball fans be worried about their rough start?
they should be concerned. It's not a big deal, but it is concerning to see that they lost a scrimmage to Dixie State for one, and then also you mentioned UC Santa Barbara. Those are two schools that shouldn't be able to compete with the tough UNLV team with all the talent that they brought in. I mean, you look at Roscoe Smith with 14.3 points per game and over 16 rebounds a game. That's a monster stat. That's better than Anthony Bennett's stats already from last year when he started. So you look at that. I mean, it's real tough, and they've only beaten a Portland State 67-48. That's a game that they should win, and also another one, Nebraska-Omaha.
You talk about that Nebraska-Omaha game. How do you only win by 3 points?
That's a huge deal. And another one is they had Arizona State the other night wrapped up, and they lost
choked.
it. They choked. And the reason why for this is UNLV, ever since the three-point line has been instituted into college basketball, they've always made at least one three-pointer. At least one in every single game they played since that three-point line has been instituted. And when you look at that, that kind of tells you what type of team they are. They're a live by the three, die by the three type of team. And that's crucial. If you're not making your shots and you're not going and you're not rolling, and you don't have people crashing the boards enough and putting it back up, you're bound to lose games.
Well, I mean, you got the boards. I mean, like you said, Roscoe Smith at 14 boards a game. You got Ken Burge at 10 boards a game. But how do you shoot 3 of 19?
Correct you on that, 11 rebounds per game.
11? Oh.
So he's still grabbing up on the boards. So, I mean.
How do you only shoot? You interrupted me. I'm going to interrupt you. I mean, let's not do this. This is my show. How do you shoot 3 of 19 from 3 and not? I mean, you lose by 6 points. You bring it inside. I mean, you got Roscoe Smith. He's hammering it away. You got Ken Burge. He's hammering it away. How do you only play 8 players against Arizona State, too? Where's Christian Woods? I mean, he was supposed to be your next big prospect from Findlay Prep. Mirror Anthony Bennett. He doesn't even get in the game. You know, I don't understand this. I think Bryce should be fired. This is a huge deal. I mean, how do you only win against Nebraska-Omaha by 3 points? How do you lose against UC Santa Barbara? Who is the Gauchos? I just want to clear that. I didn't know who they were coming into this contest. I know Justin Burks from our review is going there for basketball. And shout out to Justin Burks, by the way. But, I mean, who are the Gauchos? They are not in UNLV's league. This is a choke job by Rice. How do you let your team shoot 19 threes? Done. He's fired. Get your brother in there to coach.
But the problem is, like I stated, they live by the three. So if you live by the three, you die by the three.
And that's a coaching philosophy.
Yes, but that's always, even before Dave Rice, with Lon Kruger, with Tarkanian, they've always lived by the three.
Yeah, but Rice more than anybody. And I just want to tell you, Rice, you don't have Jimmer. All right? You don't have Jimmer.
No Jimmer.
All right,
no
you don't
Jimmer.
have Jimmer. You don't got nobody that can shoot.
He's
working inside the Roscoe. Working inside the Roscoe. He's won a national championship, for Christ's sakes. Working inside the Ken Burch. He's going to be a draft pick this year, whether it's a first or second. We're going to have to see how he's, playing 5.5 blocks. He's playing like a first-round pick. Why are you not working it inside of the big man? Where's Christian Wood?
I couldn't agree with you anymore about working the ball inside anymore. But, I mean, I've always wondered about that year in and year out when they've had a solid big man down there. They've had 6'11", 7-foot men down there play ball for him, and they just refuse to get them the ball down.
And why do you think Mike Mosier left? Because Rice doesn't know how to coach. You got the number 1 pick in Anthony Bennett, and you're letting Caton Reinhardt shoot 8 threes a game. That's a sign of a poor coach. I'm sorry.
The problem with Mike Mosier last year,
this is ridiculous.
Right.
This is a big deal. All right, you only beat Nebraska-Omaha by 3 points. This is a huge deal. You got Illinois this Tuesday. What are you doing? This is the Fighting Illini. This is the Big Ten. Who is Nebraska-Omaha? Is that team that offered Tebow a contract for some steaks? This is ridiculous.
Man, I mean, I'm just going back to it, though. I mean, David Rice, though, it's still early in the season at 2.
Fire him.
It's 2-2.
Fire him.
He led the team to the tournament last year, and that's first year.
I could have led that team to the tournament. You got the number 1 pick, and you got Mike Mosier, who should have been a draft pick the year before.
Anthony Bennett is overrated as the number 1 pick. We already know that. And we'll get into that later.
But you know what? That was a man amongst boys last year in college, right?
When he wanted to play. That's the problem.
When he wanted to play, they never got him the ball, and this is the same thing. How are you not getting Ken Burge?
He played lazy.
Ken Burge, I was at that Arizona State game, and he just looked like a monster. How do you not work the ball inside to him more than 8 times that game? This is ridiculous. But you're going to let Kevin Olakebe and, all those guards, Bryce John Jones, jack up threes. This is ridiculous. This is a coaching philosophy. I said it 3 times now. Get Grant in there. He knows how to coach at Bishop Gorman. Get him there.
I think
I'm
it's
done.
more. I think it's more than just the coaching
No.
thing. I think it's more
No.
of the schools always lived by that. Like, hey,
No.
we've made it three since the very beginning that a 3-point line has been instituted into college basketball. Why not keep that alive?
Yeah, but you're the coach. You're the one who grabs the team by the horns. You're the one who sits them down. How do you only play 8 guys against
That's-
Arizona State?
It's definitely a problem. I mean, but again, it goes back to the season. They want to stay healthy, and it's only 4 games into the season. There's a lot of basketball yet.
There's a lot of basketball left to be played for disappointed Rebel fans. They're gonna get killed.
We'll see that. See, that's you going off on that.
They're gonna get killed.
Let's see how they do. Again, if they can work the ball into their big men like Roscoe Smith and get him the ball and get him the touches that he needs, I believe this guy can be better than what Anthony Bennett was last year.
Oh,
So,
I definitely do. I mean, he's
I mean,
a junior.
and again,
he's poison. This is a man we're talking
Again,
about.
we go back to Ken Burke with his 5.5 blocks, as you mentioned earlier. Oh my goodness, when's the last time we've seen this? This isn't Brittany Griner playing against smaller women. This is a man playing with men.
So why don't you get him the ball? I don't understand. Stop jacking up threes, and the free throw percentage is horrid. All right. Why don't you? I don't know. Get him some practice at the charity stripe. I mean, I understand you can't teach skill. All right, but you're shooting 43% from the free throw line, and you expect to win games in the Mountain West with San Diego State and New Mexico. You got a resurgent Fresno State coming up, even though they lost Kevin Olakebe, which he's doing nice for the Rebels, 13.5 points a game. You got Boise State coming up. You got Wyoming, who's pretty decent. I mean, I'm scared. Bold prediction: they finish 5th in the conference.
That's pretty reasonable, especially with the way they're playing right now. They really have to get a step going. Again, it's not a big deal right now. They do have a lot of fixed. It's more of a concern, and I think they can get it fixed and still make it into the big dance. It's a long trip from here on out. And
there's no dancing.
They got a lot
dancing.
of games to play.
There's no dancing.
I believe they dance.
You know
I
what?
believe they make it in barely. Whether it's a play-in game for that 16th seed or
I just don't see
it's
the
getting
wins that are coming on
period.
in. You know what? Let's talk about this real quick. In 2 weeks, they got Arizona. How are you going to play against Aaron Gordon?
That's a whole other team. We're talking about a ranked team from the Pac-12.
You let Carson explode on you for 40 points. What is Aaron Gordon going to do for you?
Yeah,
What is the
that's gonna be
former
scary. They're
Finley
gonna-
Prep pilot Nick Johnson going to do for you? I'm scared.
I'd be scared too. Shit.
I see them getting blown out by 20 again. If you get blown out by
That's-
20 by the Gauchos,
The Gauchos. What are Gauchos?
the people who beat the Rebels, I guess.
Again, it goes back to that live by the 3, die by the 3.
I mean, great arguments all around, and you can catch us every Friday night. This is The Extra Point once again. I'm your host, Robert Vinatoli, along with my co-host,
Joseph Baker.
and we hope you enjoyed our arguments. Have a great day.